right, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're coming at you with our week 5 preview, picks, fantasy football / betting plays for every single game of the week. We got 4 teams on bye this week, so 2 less games to talk about. Some really, really good matchups, including this Bills-Texans game. The Bills have had a juggernaut schedule so far, so really excited to get into this game and a few of the other ones. How are you, Josh?
Doing really good. It's been a crazy week of football, a lot of injuries, a lot of stuff to get into and talk and discuss about, a lot of fantasy implications on the line. But, it's good to be back on the pod for week 5. It's going to be nice having a couple buys, just so it doesn't go as long. But doing good, ready to get into this guy.
Yeah, super excited. Too many injuries. It's getting a little bit gross with the buys and injuries. We'll talk about some fantasy fringe players you need to start sit with all these crazy injuries. But let's go on to the first game here. The 3-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to go into Atlanta, play the 2-2 Atlanta Falcons, who are 1.5 point favorites at home here. It's going to be a really good game. The Buccaneers are coming off a great performance against the Eagles. Kind of surprised me in that one, really bouncing back from that Broncos game. I'll get my pick right out of the way. That performance really impressed me. They had a few injuries on defense. Obviously, no Antoine Winfield, no Kalijah Kancey and Vita Vea. They get Vita Vea back in this one, and I think that could be the difference. So I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here on the road in Atlanta in primetime. The Falcons played the Chiefs really good at home in primetime just a few weeks ago. So it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a very, very close one, almost to pick them, as you can see by that line. But give me the Bucks. I think they just have a little bit more firepower offensively with the way Baker's just slinging it downfield. Godwin and Evans are playing some insane football. I think all the offensive weapons will have a pretty good game in this one. But give me the Bucks to edge out the Falcons.
I love it because it's an immediate split in this one for me and you. I'm going to go with the Falcons. And for the two reasons why I'm going with the Falcons are the two safeties with Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates. I think they have the best safety duo in the league. I think they're going to be able to slow down this really hot, fiery passing attack from Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. And I'm just feeling confident. I feel like the Falcons are due win. I feel like their record doesn't reflect how good they are. I feel like they're just really starting to get this chemistry right now rolling. And I expect a big game. Even with Vita Vea back from Bijan Robinson, I think he's going to take over. I think he's going to be awesome. I think Drake London's starting to find his stride. Sadly, Kyle Pitts is a bust. I think we can confidently say that at this place from where Kyle Pitts was picked, in the NFL draft, number 3 or 5 overall.
I think it was 3.
Yeah, I think 3 overall in a draft that had Penei Sewell, Jamar Chase, Rashawn Slater. It just had incredible talent. I think it's safe to say Kyle Pitts is officially a bust. But Dan, just getting into the fantasy implications, we all know Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Baker Mayfield, you know, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, but who are your fringe borderline starts for this game?
Yeah, you're starting the studs for sure. It'll be interesting to see how Drake London does because Zion McCollum, shout out to him. He's the #1 graded corner in PFF right now. So he's been really broken out for the Bucs secondary. The Bucs secondary has stepped up. But you mentioned it, Kyle Pitts, man, he's a mess. Like, what are you doing if you have Kyle Pitts? You almost feel like you have to start him still because of how bad the tight end situation is. Like in this economy, you kind of have to start Kyle Pitts, which is the grossest thing I've ever heard. If you can pivot away to like a Tucker Kraft or someone like that, I would absolutely start them over him. But, I'm starting Kate Otten in this game. It's a little bit gross, but you finesse Tucker Kraft for me. So I have to get Otten and start him with the Laporta bye. So I guess you can start Otten with all the targets he's getting in a pinch. And then there's really no fringe players I'm playing. Mooney, I'm not really messing around with Mooney because of how much Ray McLeod gets work. Like, I don't really want to start either of them. If you really have to, it's a dart throw. But I don't really think there's any fringe players in this one unless you want to start Trey Palmer, which isn't a bad shout because there will be no Jalen McMillan. But I think that is about it for this one.
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head. And like you said, there is implications now with bye week. So, we will be shouting out some players that you should definitely target. And, in our 12-man league, the two best tight ends on the waiver this week were Tucker Kraft, who had a standout week, and Cade Otton. So if you're able to get one of those guys, if you have Dallas Goedert or Sam Laporta on a bye, you definitely should. You should definitely be looking at that as a waiver wire option. And yeah, I was going to touch a little bit on Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod. It kind of seems like they're going to like flip flop weeks on which one does good. If you're desperate, I think they're an okay start. But if not, like you said, if you can go find a Trey Tucker, honestly, even like a Josh Downs, Jawan Jennings for maybe one more week, I think I'd feel more confident in those kind of starts.
Yeah, and you said it. There's a lot of injuries and buys, and we're going to be saying some gross names that you can throw a dart at for your lineups because there's just some crazy situations going on. But let's go on to the London game here, the 9:30 a.m. game. Set your alarms, wake up early. This should be a pretty good matchup. The 2-2 New York Jets are going to go into London and play the Vikings, who are undefeated 4-0. They're 2.5-point favorites in London and the Tottenham Stadium here. This should be a really, really fun one for the morning. But I'll get my pick right out of the way. The Jets did not impress me last week against the Broncos. They got completely shut down. The Broncos have a good defense, but that offense looked like a offense from 2008, 2006. It was just a really old, rundown offense. Nate Hackett's really struggling. Aaron Rodgers is injured as well. The Vikings, went into Lambeau and beat the Packers. They beat the doors off the Packers in the first half. So give me the Vikings in this one. They've really impressed me. I picked against them last week, and that was a mistake. Not going to pick this Jets team. They don't look like a juggernaut. Garrett Wilson, I'll say it, might not be an alpha wide receiver one. He's definitely one of the more overrated players in the NFL. He's really, really struggled. I'm sorry if you got him in fantasy. He is the definite worst first 2-round pick other than Chris McCaffrey, I guess. But he's been a struggle. This Jets team has some weird vibes. Aaron Rodgers is injured. Morgan Moses going down has really hurt them. So I'm going to go with the Vikings, man. They just impressed me a lot more. And it's a Sam Darnold revenge game. So give me the Sam Darnold revenge W.
Sam Darnold having flashbacks to the Adam Gase days and seeing ghosts. No, no longer anymore. He has moved on past that. He's got Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores, who are, arguably should be coach of the year candidates at this point with how the Vikings are playing. They're 4-0. Lock it in for 5-0. It's a seeker's guarantee. You don't even need to watch this one. It's the game's already over. But yeah, I mean, this should be a fun one for Sam Darnold. I mean, the Jets do have a challenging defense, but I mean, on the other side of the ball, this Vikings defense is the number one defense in the NFL right now. Brian Flores has got them playing out of their minds. They are the number one ranked defense in all the NFL. And from a fantasy aspect, if they are still on the waiver wire, pick up the Vikings defense. I think they are a must play almost every single week. They are putting up crazy, crazy numbers. I mean, they have 8 interceptions already on the year. I mean, let me hurry and do the sacks real quick. 8 interceptions, 17 sacks, and a defensive touchdown already. 2 forced fumbles. They are just all over the place, man. If they are somehow available, maybe even worth like a little bit of a trade bait, you can get them. I think they're a must start this entire year.
Yeah, they do have a really tough schedule, so I was a little bit scared on the Vikings defense, but they have been the most dominant defense. Definitely a great piece to have. The Jets defense has been a little
I
bit
mean,
disappointing.
sorry, just to cut you off real quick. San Francisco, Houston, and Green Bay have been their last 3 games.
Yeah, definitely.
They
I don't
have
know if they'll
they
keep up this form, but they are insane.
Yes. They have proved that they can put up numbers even against good teams, but it is a little bit suspect.
Yeah, definitely. And then other fringe fantasy options, I'm not starting Lazard or Mike Williams. They both got a lot of look last week. Maybe Stephon Gilmore will scare Aaron Rodgers away from Wilson again, but I don't really want any of the fringe options on the Jets. These London games are always so sloppy, low scoring, just weird games that are, you don't want your star, your Brees Halls, your Justin Jeffersons. You don't really want them in these games just because these London games are so weird and gross and ugly. So I'm not really looking to start too many players in this game. Addison, you can start coming off a nice 2 touchdown game, but I think that's about it. I can't really think of any fringe options in this one I would start.
No, and I would even say right now, if you have Jordan Addison, I think it was a big boom week for him. And, that's a good trade bait target. We just had somebody in our league go and trade for Jordan Addison and did give up kind of a lot. And I think that was a really good move by the guy who was able to move him. So I think he is a good trade bait, for going from aspects like that. I'll point out some people who are good trade bait, good trade away targets. But I mean, I think to trade Jordan Addison after, touching the ball 5 total times and scoring 2 touchdowns. I think he is a must start going forward, but I think you can sell him super high this week.
Yeah, Brees Hall and Jordan Addison both kind of seem like good sell high candidates. Brees Hall's kind of a sell low candidate, but I'm just getting scary vibes from him because Braylon Allen looks more explosive. He looks like the better player as of late. So that is a little bit scary. I'm almost panicking if I am a Brees Hall manager because of that situation. He just doesn't look like Brees Hall should be looking. But let's go on to the next game. My game of the week. I think has to be the Seekers game of the week. The 3-1 Buffalo Bills are going into Houston to play the Texans, who are 3-1. Big AFC playoff implications in this one. The Bills are 1 point road favorites in this one. I'm very torn. This is my coin flip of the week. No idea what the hell to pick in this one. It's a Stephon Diggs revenge game. That should be funny. The Texans will be wearing those cool alternate jerseys that kind of look like the Oilers jerseys. It's going to be a very, very good one. It's almost like if Joe Mixon plays, give me the Texans. If he doesn't, give me the Bills. That's how close this is. But I'm going to pick the Bills to bounce back after a rough outing in Baltimore. It makes me not even want to pick him in this one because that Texans passing game is just so dominant. If Joe Mixon plays, he can really hurt the Bills' run defense. So this is a really tough one, but I am going to pick Josh Allen to go into Houston and do his thing. And this Bills team has been impressive outside of last week. So I don't think last week will be the norm. I think they bounce back, and Josh Allen has a pretty heroic performance here.
This is like you said, this is like a coin flip for me. I was going back and forth. And like before this week, I would 100% pick the Bills, but I did feel like they did show their Achilles heel last week a little bit and did kind of just it showed enough to where I got a little scared. And I'm not even scared at all with the Texans. I feel so confident. I feel like the superpower is there with all the receivers and everything. This is the Stephon Diggs revenge game. I'm sure the Bills will be playing hard, but I am going to pick the Texans here, and I think it's a little bit more fun to split with you in this one. But I'm confident in CJ Stroud. I'm confident in D'Amico Ryans. I'm a little bit maybe more confident in the overall team and honestly the offensive play and just the talent on the Texans. So I feel like that just gives them the slight edge over the Bills in this one.
Yeah, and I will say the Texans did have a little bit of a suspect performance against the Jaguars, who were, 0-4 last week. They were really a few dumb, stupid, bonehead plays from losing that game. Trevor Lawrence, a few really bad play calls, I guess I should say. So neither team's impressed me at all last week. So this is just an impossible one to pick. Fantasy wise, going into the fringe plays, I think Khalil Shakir is just a complete smash play. I'm staying away from Keon Coleman right now. Obviously, you're starting all of the stars in this game. It's very obvious, goes without saying. Joe Mixon, you're starting if he's back. If he's not back, I don't even want to start Cam Akers. I'll just say I'm out on Cam Akers, even if Pierce and Mixon are out. I think you just got to start the stars in this game, and there's not really any fringe options I'm touching here.
I 100% agree with you. I've gone through the rosters and there's not one person I feel comfortable with outside of the stars. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that one.
Beautiful. So with that, we'll move on to the next game. The 2-2 Baltimore Ravens are going to go into, I almost said Cleveland, Cincy, different city in Ohio, and play the 1-3 Bengals. Absolutely crazy. 1-3 Bengals. Huge AFC North battle here. Big rivalry. They're both going to be playing very, very tough. The Ravens are 2.5 point road favorites in this one. And I'll get my pick right out of the way, man. This Bengals defense, it's the worst Bengals defense I can remember going back absolute years because they've had a really good, just stout culture at defense, and Lou Anarumo's been awesome. But this Bengals defense is soft. They give up way too much in the air, and most importantly, way too much on the ground. We saw what Jaden Daniels did to this team. So give me Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry to do exactly what they did last week against the Bills, to an even worse run defense in the Cincinnati Bengals. So give me the Ravens to come into Cincinnati and really just run the doors off of them, just run the ball every single play. In fantasy, I'm not starting Andrews, likely Zay Flowers, even. I'm not starting any receivers for the Ravens because they're going to run the ball every single play. So Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, I have them single-handedly winning this game. The Bengals offense is starting to click a little bit more. Burrow looks a lot better. Chase obviously is a superhero, but give me the run game to just completely wear down this Bengals team.
I'm on the exact same page with you. I'm going to also roll with the Ravens. I think they are superior to the Bengals. I think this week I am hitting the official panic button on the Bengals. I am scared of this team. I still feel like they can hit those deep shots and still be competitive with Jamar Chase and everything. But overall, the culture feels different. You lose coaching staff. Joe Burrow doesn't seem 100% right. This team just doesn't feel 100% right. And I'm just gonna say, I think I am starting to hit the panic on this Bengals team. And one person I gotta throw out there just because I have to say their name, Justice Hill. Are you confident at all in starting Justice Hill, especially for him being the third down back, being the primary receiving back? I feel like he's kind of boom or bust, but are you comfortable starting him this week?
I'm personally never comfortable with Justice Hill. I guess he can be rostered, but I would personally never throw him into my lineup. I could respect it if you did. Obviously, he had a great game last week, week one. In certain matchups, he will get a lot of receiving. He led them last week in receiving. If I was to start any receiver in this game, it would be him. I'd start him over Zay Flowers. So that does say something, but I don't know if I really want to start him because I do think they're just running the ball every single play. If the Bengals make it close, he could be a pretty good play. If you have him and you're desperate as hell, it's not a bad play. I don't think I personally could start him. I've had that option in a few leagues and I've kind of just shied away from it I've been paying up for a Cream Hunt or just even a Trey Sermon. I'd rather start for Justice Hill. But what about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page, kind of boom or bust. You're hoping for a touchdown, you're hoping for a long reception. Other than that, I'm not feeling too comfortable. But are you rostering Justice Hill in deeper leagues?
Yeah, in deeper leagues you can. I had a situation where I could have rostered him, Antonio Gibson, or Trey Sermon. I chose Trey Sermon and Antonio Gibson, so he was kind of like my third choice to those two. But if those two are already rostered, he isn't a bad roster. He will have a floor of like 10 points in certain games. But I mean, I guess his floor could be like 2 points in certain games. So I don't know. Maybe his ceiling is 10 points, and I just don't love the ceiling, I guess, for him.
Yeah, the upside is definitely limited there. And then getting on to one other thing on the other side of the ball, Zach Moss and Chase Brown getting a 50-50 split, 15 carries each last week. Are you nervous at all for that backfield? Are you panicking? Are you confident? What do you make of that?
I'm definitely not confident because I could not have foreseen what happened last week. I thought Zach Moss was running away with the RB1 role because of how good he is as a blocker, and then they just did a complete 180. I'm not confident at all. I do think Zach Moss will be the starter because of his blocking ability. He will stay the starter. Honestly, like even week one, this whole season, Chase Brown's looked like the better player. That's never been a question. He's the more explosive player, but Zach Moss is just always going to hold the role because of his blocking. So it's very tough for me. Obviously, I would prioritize Zach Moss, but I would have them pretty close in rankings. In this matchup, it's not a beautiful one because I do think the Bengals will be down and they will be have to, throw the ball a lot. Maybe Zach Moss has a nice receiving floor. Same with Chase Brown. They could get, a good fantasy week through the air, but I don't think they're gonna run very well in this matchup. So I'm a little bit scared of them. Don't really know. I definitely am not confident on that moving forward as well, because I could see a world where Chase Brown takes over, could see a world where it just stays the exact same the rest of the season. It's a tough one for me. But what about you?
Yeah, I'm personally still confident in Zach Moss. I it does freak me out a little bit. I don't think I'm starting Chase Brown. Obviously, I think you have to start Zach Moss. If you're rostering him for a flex or anything, I give it one more week to see for sure. I think next week will be very telling of what we get out of the two backs.
Absolutely. And then the rest of the fringe options in this game, like I said, I'm not starting anyone on the Ravens other than Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson personally, and that's it. Justice Hill would be my third in a very, very, very deep dart throw. This isn't a bad matchup for him. And then for the Bengals, Yosef Austin's never a bad dart throw. Obviously, you're starting all of the studs. And then, yeah, Moss and Brown are both flex options for me. Moss definitely prioritized over Brown, and I think that is it for this game. Oh, and tight end. Don't touch Jasicki. He's literally their third string tight end. I'm not touching Jasicki.
Not yet. None of the tight ends. Don't start any tight ends in either of these matchups.
No, definitely not Likely or Andrews either. It's just a disaster. You can drop Likely and Andrews 100% and Gasicki. So yeah, drop all these tight ends. Kind of a gross, but it's going to be a good matchup, a nasty AFC North battle. Let's go on to the next one. Another division battle, AFC South battle here. The 2-2 Indy Colts are going to go into Jacksonville and play the 0-4 Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 3-point home favorites in this one. And that's an interesting line. The 0-4 team are home favorites against a team coming off a win against an undefeated Steelers team. So this is very, very interesting. The Jaguars are playing in those beautiful, beautiful throwbacks. So that definitely makes me kind of want to pick them. Obviously, it's not because of the uniforms, but they will be looking good, feeling good. I am going to pick the Jaguars to get their first win of the season here. I do think they give Anthony Richardson some problems. I don't expect Jonathan Taylor to go in this one. I think it will be
Pause,
Trace.
pause, 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 pause. If
If
Joe Flacco,
Flacco
if,
plays, I'm taking the Colts. I was going to say that.
okay,
If he plays, I'm taking the Colts. You have to. He's Joe Flacco. He led the Browns to the playoffs last year. He'd probably lead this Colts team to the playoffs. So if he plays, I'm switching up. But if it's Richardson, I got to go with the Jaguars.
I respect it. I like it. I just I think Flacco should be the starter for the rest of the season. I will just say that out there. I think he gives the Colts at this point the best chance to win. I think he is a perfect, he's just a competitive quarterback. I think he runs this offense a lot better than Anthony Richardson. I think Anthony Richardson's a little sporadic. I think you have a little bit more consistent and calm vibe out there with Joe Flacco. The receivers seem to do a lot better. I think no matter what, I think this Jaguars team might be, I mean, at 0-4, they are one of the worst teams in the NFL. I think Doug Peterson should have been fired last week. I don't know what direction this team is heading in.
That's the tough part is you can't even fire him because they're going into London for 2 weeks after this week. So they literally can't even fire him until 3 weeks after London. So that's kind of a disaster there.
Yeah, it's just brutal. I don't feel confident. I don't like it. And I'm gonna go with the Colts here. I'm gonna split with you on this one. I'm more confident in the Colts. I mean, I'm definitely a lot more confident if Joe Flacco plays. If Anthony Richardson's out there, I hope they just run the ball a lot. With Jonathan Taylor, I think that'll be enough. But I trust the defense. I trust the offense enough to get it done over Jacksonville. It is a division game. It is going to be tough. It kind of flip a coin in this one with me. But I'm going to ride the hot hand with the Colts a little bit more coming off of that big win versus the Steelers.
And I will say, I don't expect Jonathan Taylor to go on this one. I think he has that same Joe Mixon injury where, he says he's fine, but he will miss a week. Probably, I would project 2 weeks. So it should be Trey Sermon here for 2 weeks. Going into fantasy, I think you can start Sermon. You're not excited about it. It reminds me of Cam Akers a little bit, just not a talented player, but he will have the workhorse role. I'm sure that Tyler Goodson and Evan Hull will be, annoying. And I would start Trey Sermon, though. I probably will in my league. Michael Pittman, you have to start him, I guess, but you're not excited about it. If Flacco plays, you're very excited about it. If Flacco plays, you're really excited about Josh Downs too, and probably Alec Pierce, AD Mitchell. I'm totally fine with all these receiving options if Flacco starts, but I am expecting it to be Anthony Richardson. I think he's fine, and I don't love that at all for anyone really. You would only start Michael Pittman in that one, and that's just gross. It's honestly just gross. So for the Colts, a little bit scared if it's Anthony Richardson, just because he's been so bad. And for the Jaguars, they impressed me against the Texans last week. They actually were a lot better. Trevor had his best game of the year, which doesn't say a lot. He's been pretty terrible, but you can start Brian Thomas Jr. as just a smash play. He's just an absolute stud. And then I don't think I'm looking for like an Evan Ingram in this one. I need him to prove it to me before I start him. And I don't think there's any other fringe guys for the Jags.
Yeah, you just nailed it with that. Josh Downs, I thought was an intriguing waiver wire addition if he's still on, your waiver. Obviously, it goes down significantly if Anthony Richardson starts. If Joe Flacco starts, he hyper targeted Josh Downs, 8 targets. He ended up 22 fantasy points and a touchdown. So if Flacco goes, I think he's a must start in the flex, given bye weeks. If you have Lad McConkey or something, Rashee Rice went down. I think he's a decent option there.
Yep, I say he's a must start if Flacco goes, and if he doesn't, he's a must bench in my opinion. So that's just kind of how I am with all the Colts receivers, honestly. But going on to the next game, the 1-3 Cleveland Browns are going to go into Washington and play the hot 3-1 Commanders, who are 3-point home favorites in this one. The Browns are a complete joke right now. They're playing some terrible football. Their whole offensive line is completely banged up. Deshaun Watson had his first good game I've watched him play in years last week against the Raiders, and they still couldn't step up for him. They still couldn't get the job done in Vegas. So that's just, a complete joke. They are looking like shambles right now. Give me the Commanders, who just came off a pounding of the Cardinals, just completely dominated the Cardinals in Arizona. The Browns coming off losses against the Giants and Raiders with that terrible offensive line. Give me the Commanders. Jaden Daniels is playing literal perfect football. He's had the best 4-week stretch by PFF in NFL history, and that's just happens to be his first 4 games of his career. Like, he's literally just playing some absurd football, defying all odds, just making me look like an idiot for being lower on him in the draft. Just a complete stud. I got to give him respect, and I think the Commanders kind of just put on a show at home and dominate here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, sorry for calling you the Redskins. You are the Commanders now. I mean, that's on us. That's our bad. We talked a lot of heat on this team, and Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels really, I mean, really showing out. I mean, we thought this was a team that could have Drake May and Ben Johnson in another realm, another universe, and it's just but it's perfect. They're killing it right now. Like you said, Jaden Daniels is playing perfect football. They're just the complementary football is fantastic on offense. It's just incredible. Terry McLaurin started to heat up. And so yeah, I'm right with you. I'm rolling with the Commanders. They are looking like one of the better teams in all the NFL right now. I mean, the dominating fashion of this offense, in back-to-back weeks is very impressive. So yeah, I have no choice but to give them their credit, to give them their respect, and and pick them to win.
Yeah, Miles Garrett is a little bit scary on the other side, but like Jaden Daniels is just playing so cool, calm, and just not phased. I don't even think it'll really phase him too much. So I will go with the Commanders going into fantasy. Terry McLaurin, I do think as a start, you got to ride the flames there with this offense in general. Denzel Ward against him is a little bit scary. There could be a world where he has a complete stinker because of that, but I am starting Scary Terry. I'm starting both Brian Robinson and Eckler. I think Eckler is a great, great play. Just he looks a lot more explosive. He's almost returned 2 kicks this year. He looks like a completely different player. He gets a lot of the receiving work in this offense. Is just not the Commanders offense that you remember. It's just a really solid offense that you kind of want to target in fantasy. So I'm starting all those options, maybe even Zach Ertz as a dart throw for a high floor. For the Browns, I don't want to start anyone. I think Amari Cooper could be traded after this game. There's just some bad vibes here for the Browns. You can start Jerome Ford here until Nick Chubb is back, but I think that's literally it, man. It's just gross vibes here. Jerry Judy's been kind of respectable. I'll give him some respect, but I mean, it's bad. I'm not really starting anyone on the Browns.
Yeah, I don't feel confident in anyone in the Browns either. You kind of answered my question I had in my notes to ask you about Austin Eckler. You answered it before I could even ask you. You are starting Austin Eckler. Like you said, he looks a little rejuvenated. He looks a little fresher. I think it kind of feels like it's giving me remnants, like vibes of Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. 2018, 2019 type or 2018 vibes between those two. And I like it. I think Eckler does best in a committee. And I think, he could, if they start getting him a little bit more involved in the pass game and a little bit more around the red zone area, he could be a really, really, really must start every single week type of fantasy player. But yeah, like you said, Jaden Daniels is on fire. Brian Robinson Jr. is just awesome. Eckler and McLaurin, and that's it.
Yeah, if you're in a serious league, Eckler's definitely rostered. But if you are maybe in an unserious league, go pick up Eckler if he's somehow on the waivers because he's a great, great option to start. And yeah, Jaden Daniels, QB1, absolutely unreal. Just an unreal season from this guy, this rookie QB1 in fantasy right now, just playing so damn good. But with that, let's go on to the next game. The 1-3 Miami Dolphins are going to go into New England and play the 1-3 Patriots. Another division battle here in AFC West or an AFC East battle. A lot of division battles this week. The Patriots are 1 point home favorites in this one. It's literally a pick 'em. And I mean, this is a coin flip. I've been going back and forth on my pick all day long. It looks like Ramondre could be benched for Antonio Gibson, which is interesting. I don't mind playing Antonio Gibson, honestly. I think this is a pretty good matchup for him. I think he could get a lot in the receiving game. And if he's going to get a boosted workload, I could see him scoring. I could just see a good week from Antonio Gibson. So definitely roster him, and I would not mind flexing him at all, just getting that out of the way. But I do think the stars kind of shine for the Dolphins in this one. It's a coin flip, so I'm gonna use the tiebreaker on just the Dolphins have a much better roster. They have a lot more stars. Tyler Huntley looked terrible, terrible last week, but the offense just didn't look like it was clicking. It just had no chemistry. And I think one more week in this offense, Huntley could be a little bit more acclimated and comfortable. And maybe Chan has a better game than the last 2 weeks against this Patriots run defense. So give me the Dolphins. I think Chan, Tyreek Hill can kind of win this game by themselves just because this Patriots offensive line is in such shambles right now. They literally can't even put out the third overall pick because of it. And David Andrews is down for the season. It's just a mess on that offensive line. So, Jalen Phillips is out for season 2. That's unfortunate. But Calais Campbell, Sealer are playing really good. Give me the Dolphins in a close one just because they got a better roster.
I like it because we're splitting on a lot of these games. This is going to decide pick'ems by a lot. This next week could totally flip me and yours record because I'm going with the Patriots here, and I trust the Patriots defense. I trust Gerard Mayo to come up with a really good game plan for Tyler Huntley. I think I'm going to say it right now. Just I'll get into the fantasy takes. I don't think anyone's startable in this game. I mean, besides Devon Achane, I think there's one startable player. I think obviously you must start Devon Achane. I don't think Tyreek Hill's startable. I don't. He's going to be going against Christian Gonzalez. I don't think he's startable. I don't think Jalen Waddle's startable. I don't think anyone but Achan, just because of the volume I can see Achan getting, is startable in this game.
I will
And
say Christian Gonzalez has faced a lot of good receivers, and all of them have just completely eaten this season. Like everyone that's gone against the Patriots, every wide receiver one is just completely eaten. I think Tyreek, you kind of have to start, but I get it. He had a
I mean,
terrible
you
week.
kind of do have to start him, but I don't know though at the same time because let me hear and go to Tyreek Hill's most recent game
He's
since.
coming off a completely terrible week, but that whole offense was just so unorganized, and it looked like they just had no chemistry, and Tyler Huntley was so uncomfortable. But I understand it.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill right now as wide receiver 26. He has not scored above 9 points in so we're 4 weeks into the season. He scored 26. He had his, the big arrest game. And he has scored 6.6, 7, 8.2. He has had 3 receptions, 4 receptions, 24 yards, 40 yards, 23 yards. I'm scared of Tyreek Hill right now. I'm scared of this offense without Tua. I will say it.
Yeah,
Noodle arm Tua is what kept this offense somehow together just because of the rhythm and the timing. I mean, I like Tyler Huntley, but I don't know. I just don't know if this Dolphins team with a not great offensive line just kind of seems like they're losing the locker room a little bit too. I'm not comfortable in this Dolphins team at all right now.
definitely a capped upside on all these players. Tyreek, I mean, if you can bench him, if you have like a really solid option, you totally can bench him. Someone, the Tyreek owner in our specific league actually has a lot of good receivers, so he will be benched, and that makes sense. But in most leagues, I feel like you kind of just have to play Tyreek unless you've just got an insane bench. Obviously, Waddle, you got to bench until Tua's back in what week 8, week 9. And then Achan, I do foresee a pretty solid game from Achan. He had 15 yards last week. I think he gets a lot more involved in this one. And that's the reason I'm picking the Dolphins. I'm just picking the stars, Achan and Tyreek. I think one of them gets a nice touchdown and they come away with a low scoring, gross game win. Both of these defenses need to be started though.
100%. 100%. Yeah, it's going to be a gross, low scoring game. We are flipped on this one, so as painful as it is, you're going to have to watch it.
Yeah, I guess you guys have to, close. Just no, don't watch it. Just close your eyes. Just
Yeah, this is the one exception. This is the one exception. You don't have to watch this.
Yeah, we're split, but still don't watch this one. We'll go on to the next one. The 1-3 Carolina Panthers are going into Chicago and playing the 2-2 Bears, who are 4-point home favorites in this one, coming off a home win in Soldier Field against the Rams. That defense is awesome, man. That Bears defense is smothering, so it should be a pretty good matchup for this team. It's a DJ Moore revenge game as well. Just take all of DJ Moore's overs. I should have done a lock of the week and just put DJ Moore over because he's gonna eat. I can just already see. I can see him scoring. I can see 100 yards from DJ Moore. I could just see him being pissed off and just going off against this terrible soft Panthers defense. No corners for this Panthers team. Obviously, with J.C. Horn out, with Shaq Thompson out for season, Derek Brown out for season. This Panthers defense is in complete shambles. The 3 best players are out. It's soft. On paper, this Bears team should have a nice get right game here and get back. And Caleb Williams should have his best game of the season. Hopefully, it helps his confidence because he's missing throws that I didn't know he would ever miss. He's definitely not playing some great football right now. So I will pick the Bears here and a little bit of a bounce back, and maybe the offense gets right just in this matchup. I do think it'll be somewhat high scoring because this Panthers offense is pretty relentless. Andy Dalton's a stud, but I do think the Bears defense prevails in the end. I think the Bears offense gets back a little bit. I think they get right a little bit, but it will be somewhat low scoring here.
Yeah, well, I was actually going to say I could see this one somehow turning, even though with a really good Bears defense, I could just somehow weird vibe that this one could actually be a high scoring game. Just I have a weird feeling, like you said, it could be a big DJ Moore game on the other side. I just think the receivers in this game are good. I mean, is Rome healthy right now?
Yeah, Rome's healthy, Keenan's healthy. Everyone should be playing. I think Deontay Johnson said he'll be playing as well, so everyone should be playing.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, I think I think this is a fun receiver game, honestly, with Rome, Keenan, DJ Moore healthy on the other side. Deontay Johnson's looking like a true wide receiver one alpha right now. Xavier Legette is also a really fun option. Chuba Hubbard, like running back 14 in fantasy right now. So I mean, if you're able to get him off the waiver, he's a must start every single week. Chuba Hubbard is playing fantastic football right now. It's like a rejuvenated Panthers team. But however, I am on the same wavelength and everything as you. I will be going with the Bears. I think the defense is just a little too overwhelming, and I think they have just enough on offense to get it done versus this Panthers team. However, I feel like it's going to be close, man. I really do. I feel like this one's going to come down to last minute. I think Andy Dalton makes this game very, very competitive, and I think it's just going to come down to that fourth quarter, field possession, who has the ball last type of feel in this one.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was actually like low key considering picking the Panthers. I do think it'll be a close game. Could see it being one of those weird high scoring games. So if you have the Bears defense, be a little bit scared about it. They were my backup option to the Patriots defense this week. So I mean, you can't start them at home, favored to win, but I do think the Panthers could piss off some fantasy owners. And then yeah, going into fantasy, I personally, I mean, you have him, so you can speak better on it, but I think I'm benching Keenan Allen and maybe even Romo Dunze as well until proven otherwise. This is a good matchup, but I think I'm really just starting DJ Moore, and I don't even think I'm starting Cole Kmet. There's just too much to go around, and Caleb has not impressed me at all.
Yeah, as of right now, I sadly am a Rasheed Rice owner. So very, very tragic, terrible feeling for him going down. Hopefully, it's not season ending. It's weird vibes. We got to talk about that a little bit. We don't even know. We haven't heard anything in 3, 4 days if it's an ACL or not. But yeah, right now my starting receivers, I have Xavier Legette and Josh Downs in favor over Keenan Allen right now. I just feel like their upside and ceiling is higher than Keenan Allen's. Obviously, in week one, Keenan Allen had 11 targets. Last week, he only had 4. And so I am just a little bit cautious and scared to start Keenan Allen. However, I feel like this could be a decent matchup for him, but I'm going in favor of guys with a little bit higher upside.
Yeah, this definitely is a good matchup for all of them. You can throw a dart at literally any of those receiving options, and it could hit. I think DeAndre Swift is the guy to start coming off a big week out of completely nowhere when everyone benched him. He had a great week, so you kind of have to start him. Hopefully, he doesn't have another stinker. But yeah, you mentioned on the Panthers, you're starting Xavier Leggett. I think he's a really fun option rest of season. Honestly, a lot of upside, league winning, may I say, upside for Leggett. And then obviously Deontay Johnson, Chuba Hubbard are smash starts right now with Andy Dalton, and I think that's it.
Yeah, 100%. Should be a pretty fun game. So, it's a seeker's lock, but this is one, instead of the Dolphins, watch this game.
Yeah, put this game on one of your 4 games for multi-view, but after the Seekers guarantee, let's go on to the next one. The 1-3 Arizona Cardinals are going to go into San Fran and play the 2-2 49ers, another division battle, an NFC West battle in this one. The 49ers are 7-point favorites, a pretty big line. And I'll say it, I agree with that line. I think this is going to be my pounding of the week game. I think the Niners have a huge, bounce back game here. I think their offense clicks in this
We're in
one.
October. You could say it, man.
Uh, Oh, the Michael Myers bloody murder, revenge, kill. I literally
Woo!
think they're gonna just cut the Cardinals in pieces in this one, like Halloween Kills. And I do think that the 49ers just have a massive game. The Cardinals really disappointed me last week. They got literally Michael Myers murdered them last week in Arizona against the Commanders. It was bad, bad stuff. And I think it's gonna happen again. Maybe they're in their heads after that. A little bit embarrassing, honestly, at home. And I think the Niners get right here. I think Brandon Ayuk has his first good game of the season. If he doesn't, I'm out on Brandon Ayuk. Just, you cannot start Brandon Ayuk because he's playing terrible football. But I do think he has a better game in this one. I think the Cardinals defense has been a little bit soft lately. And I think Debo, obviously, he's like a top 5 receiver in fantasy right now with all the buys and everything. He's going to be awesome this week. And I think, this 49ers offense really just excites me a lot more than this Cardinals team, which has been a little bit disappointing to me.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. Give me Michael Myers' bloody murder game of the week here. And yeah, I feel like the Cardinals are just very, very disappointing this year. I feel like they should be better. I feel like they've let a couple games slip, but I'm just not confident in this coaching staff. I'm not confident in the chemistry of the whole team right now. And I think it is a good get right game for the 49ers. I think again, another team that showed their Achilles heel against Washington was the Cardinals. They went into that game completely asleep, and I expect, a pissed off 2-2 49ers team to come in here and just punch them right in the mouth. And then, I mean, from a fantasy aspect, obviously, I'll start off with the Cardinals. I think you have to give Kyler Murray, I think you have to start him. given what probably most people's situation is. Like me, I have Kyler Murray. I have to start him. I also have Marvin Harrison Jr. I do feel like Marvin Harrison Jr. will be decent this week. I feel like, he's been finding his way into the end zone. Um, and James Conner obviously is a start, and Trey McBride, if he's healthy, start him just because fantasy tight ends are so terrible. And then on the 49ers side of things, you kind of already spoke on that, but I'll just let you kind of top it off.
Yeah, I mean, for the Cardinals, I totally agree because they're going to be down this whole game, I project. So they're just going to be passing. It's a tough matchup, but they're going to be passing the hell out of the ball. So they should salvage some fantasy production there. And then for the 49ers, you're starting all the studs. Don't need to talk about them. The only fringe option is Jawan Jennings. I'm not starting Jawan Jennings this week. I mean, he somehow led the team in receiving last week, but I mean, Brandon Ayuk's just been pathetic. But I do think, 5 weeks into the season now, I do think Ayuk gets more involved here. Kittle had a really nice catch last week. I think Kittle has a pretty good game. I obviously you're starting all the stars for the 49ers. I think Juwan Jennings is the only one I'm not really looking to start here. I mean, he's the fifth option, so it's just a little bit too down the pecking order to me. I
Uh,
mean, I don't know. And Pearsall's
Yeah,
back. You can roster Pearsall.
yeah, I 100% agree. I think this is the week where he starts to fade. So no, I don't think there's much more to touch on this game. It is our bloody murder game of the week.
But I will say there's something about Juwan Jennings. He's a player for sure. Like it's not a fluke or anything. He's a damn good player. We saw it in the Super Bowl, obviously. He's a damn good player. 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. He's definitely a player. Brock Purdy obviously has that trust. He's better than Ayuk right now. So hopefully Ayuk hears me and bounces back and gets pissed off. But let's go on to the next game. Another division battle, an AFC West division battle here. The 2-2 Vegas Raiders are going to go into Denver and play the 2-2 Broncos wearing those nice throwback jerseys, those beautiful 80s, 70s throwback uniforms. The Broncos are 2.5 point favorites, probably just because of the uniforms, honestly. But, give me the Broncos in this one in the throwback uniforms at home. I do think they have a pretty solid game here. I think Bo Nix has his best game offensively, obviously, against this Raiders defense. Max Crosby might not go. Devontae Adams might not go because Antonio Pierce is incompetent. He's a grown man, an NFL coach liking posts, shading his own best player. It's just crazy stuff to me. Crazy world we live in. Antonio Pierce is not a good coach. No serious coach is doing that. No, real winning coaches out there doing that with their best player playing around like that. So they're going to lose Devontae Adams. He's not going to be playing because of that petty stuff. So I don't know if Max Crosby will go there. I could totally see a world where Max Crosby, if he does go, he wins this game single-handedly by himself. But the Broncos tackles are playing really good. Pachensky, I think it is playing really good at replacing Mike McGlinchey. So give me the Broncos in this one. Their defense has been smothering. It's like I honestly think it's the second best called defense in the NFL. It's probably because Vance Joseph is just spamming blitzes like Brian Flores. They're doing the same thing as the Vikings. So give me the Broncos defense to really hurt Gardner Minshew and Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers, who will be shadowed by Pat Surtain. I don't think there's enough offensive firepower here. I think the Broncos' run game is even better than the Raiders. So give me the Raiders. Give me the
Yeah,
Broncos. What am I saying? Give me the Broncos.
yeah, Broncos. Yeah, I'm on the same wavelength too. I think the Raiders have completely lost the locker room. I think Antonio Pearson. I think they're just in a full on meltdown right now. I think this team is kind of crumbling and falling apart. I think that week 3 game versus the Panthers is just what really set this locker room and everyone on fire. After week 2, after the Raiders beat the Baltimore Ravens. I was confident in them, but I mean, it just looks like a catastrophic meltdown happening in Las Vegas. And I have absolutely zero confidence in them. I have zero confidence in Antonio Pierce. I mean, you're without your 2 best players. You're unserious. And yeah, for that single reason alone, I will be picking the Broncos. And I feel very confident the Broncos will come in here. I think Sean Payton will take advantage of this mentally depleted Raiders team, which is only 4 weeks into the season. And I honestly feel like the Broncos will win in dominating fashion.
I don't know if they have that in them. They always have sweaty games, and the Raiders have owned the Broncos as of late. Like I could totally see the Raiders winning just because of that. Like the Broncos cannot beat the Raiders for some reason, but I do think they win. I could see a world where they do dominate just because they're at home. It's a lot of hype with the new throwback uniforms. They're finally got Javante playing real football. This is the first last week was the first good Javante game we've had in a long time. Sutton and Bo are starting to get a connection, so I could totally see that. The Raiders offense is so depleted; it could be a little bit of a blowout in Broncos terms of a blowout for sure. Going into fantasy, I do think Javante is a dart throw. He obviously Tyler Bidet is down. He's going on IR, so it will be condensed. And Javonte could be a dart throw with all the receiving he'll get against this pretty bad defense. This run defense is not good, especially if Crosby doesn't go. Sutton is a dart throw as well. They're both just dart throw flexes, though. You don't need to shoe them into your lineup at all. That's it for the Broncos. And then for the Raiders, I think Trey Tucker is the only guy I'm touching in this one. Jacoby Myers is going to be shadowed by Pat Surtain. I'm not touching that. I mean, I wasn't even wanting to touch Garrett Wilson in that situation. So definitely not Myers. I think Trey Tucker's the only guy I'm touching. I don't want either Zamir White or Alex Madison to be starting in any lineups because of this Broncos defense. It's just so smothering, a very little touchdown upside. Obviously, Breece Hall had 3 chances to get in 1 yard away and couldn't do it. So I don't think anyone's scoring on this Raiders team. I'm only starting Bowers and maybe Trey Tucker.
Yeah, you just said that perfectly. There's nothing much more to it, but yeah, it should be kind of a stinky game of the week. But maybe you're not as confident. But I am confident in your Broncos this week. I think they'll handle the Raiders with ease.
Let's go. And yeah, those Broncos defense is awesome. I think they have a very good week. And if you can get them in fantasy, I think they're one of the best defenses in fantasy to have. So really fun times for the 2-2 Broncos with 2 wins in a row. Let's go on to the next game. The 2-2 Green Bay Packers are going into LA to play the 1-3 Rams. The Packers are 3-point road favorites in this one, coming off a weird game, just down 28 at halftime, and then they go out just gunslinging it. Obviously, Love throws for 400 yards 50 times. I don't really see that happening in this game. I think it'll be a lot more slowed down of a tempo in this one. I think Stafford and Kyron, for some reason, just play so much better at home. So this will be a pretty close, definitely a lower scoring game than that Packers Vikings game. It should be a pretty fun one. There's a lot of obviously star talent in this one, even with Puka and Cup out. Give me the Packers in this one, though, on the road. I think they bounce back a little bit pissed off from that Vikings loss. I think they get the W here. I think it will be a really close game, though, because Stafford is just so awesome at home. He's playing some great football with all the injuries, with all the odds stacked against him. I think Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington are really fun fantasy plays. Either of them, they're kind of just 50-50. And, one of them could get into the end zone. I like them both. They're playing some really fun football. Whittington's playing in that Puka and Cup role. So I think this is going to be a really fun game, actually. Kyron's playing just hero ball, really. It's just Kyron and Stafford. So a lot of fun players in this one, but give me the Packers on the road.
Yeah, I like the Packers in this one, and like we saw last week, even in a loss to the Vikings, I love the Jordan Love gunslinging Brett Favre mentality, as you quoted to me. It just feels like he's out there, he's having fun, he's tossing the rock. They've got. I wouldn't say they have really any elite wide receivers. I mean, Jaden Reed is looking just awesome, but no one's super elite. But Jordan Love's just getting it done. I mean, they've just got so many people that can catch the ball well and get open, well. And there's a lot of fun, fantasy options in this. Devontae Wicks, when Watson went out, got 35% of the target share. Romeo Dobbs is interesting. Obviously, Jaden Reed is a must start every single week. At this point, he's just incredible. He's one of the best fantasy players, I think, right now, just with his versatility. Jordan Love's a must start. And then, yeah, like you said, on the other side of the ball with the Rams, there's some intriguing plays, but it really is just Kyron hero ball. And then depending on, the wide receiver injuries and everything, like you said, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, just interesting plays for sure. Because obviously Stafford will target somebody a lot, and there will be always one good Rams receiver.
Yep. Obviously, you're starting Kyron, and then I think Whittington and Tutu are both good plays. I'd prioritize Tutu like 51-49, very close. I do think you can flex them both in this matchup, though. They'll need to be throwing against this gunslinging Packers team. Yeah, like you said, Jaden Reed, 2 weeks with Jordan Love, 33.1 points and 27.1 points. So Jaden Reed is on fire. He's obviously a locked and loaded wide receiver one, damn near on your team. Dontavian Wicks, you got to ride the flames with him. 13 targets last week. Got to start him. Got to start Tucker Kraft. A lot of targets. I said it after the draft that he was a better player than Luke Musgrave, and that has aged beautifully. He is just such a good tight end, man. He's a stud for Jordan Love. I'm not starting Romeo Dobbs unless I completely have to, unless I'm forced into it. I do think I want to see just one more week of Romeo Dobbs just looking better. I think Wicks and Reed are just more explosive than him. So I do want to see him looking better. But with Christian Watson now, you can start him in a pinch. He'd be my, third priority though. And obviously Josh Jacobs, Jordan Love, you got to start a lot of I think you got to go trade for some Packers. You need some exposure to Packers in fantasy because they're playing awesome.
Yeah, 100%. Where is this game being played? Sorry, I blanked it.
LA.
It's going to be heavily crowded in Green Bay fans.
Yeah, it's a home game. It's in LA, so it's a home game for the Packers. It's going to be in Lambeau Field, LA. But let's go on to the next game, the last game before Sunday night. The 1-3 Giants are going to go into Seattle, play the 3-1 Seahawks. The Seahawks are 6.5 point favorites here. I'll get this one right out of the way. I don't take the Giants too seriously. Their defense has been soft, and the Seahawks offense has been relentless. Just so much star power. Geno Smith is so accurate. He just sprays it downfield to this guy, DK, Lockett, JSN. Just expect a lot of targets for all three of them. Expect Kenneth Walker just looked like, he shaved his head and he looks like Adrian Peterson out there. So this whole Seahawks offense is kind of comically explosive, really electric. Give me them to beat this Giants team, who, they played respectable the last few weeks. Daniel Jones has a complete just juggernaut wide receiver one alpha that really helps this team. He's literally just hit their whole team. But give me the Seahawks in this one. It's kind of straightforward.
Yeah, there's not too much to really argue on this one. The Seahawks are indeed the better football team. Uh, better on offense, better on defense, better coaching, in my opinion. Really love Mike McDonald, what he's doing there. I think he's, a candidate for, rookie coach of the year, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, they're just like you said, it's just comical. I mean, just the explosiveness, just the talent on this Seahawks team is just incredible. Very, very fun game last week versus the Lions that they played in. I mean, just a fun shootout, just dominant football from both offenses there. But yeah, like you said, there's one alpha who's just awesome and gives Giants fans just that glimmer of hope, just that light at the end of the tunnel, which is Malik Neighbors. And maybe you have a Malik Neighbors, Cam Ward, Malik Neighbors, Jalen Milrow, or Shadur Sanders combo to look forward to next year. But yeah, just to get into fantasy aspects of things. Malik Neighbors, are you out on Devin Singletary now?
He didn't practice today. I would start him if you can. I think those are the only two players that you can start. Oh no, Waddle is, or what's his name, Wandell as well. I
Oh,
think
Wandale is
Wandell
actually
Robinson
good. Yeah.
is kind of a start just because he's a PPR cheat code. He's just a cheater for PPR. Really, it doesn't make sense. He's not a good player, but he gets so much reception. It's just you kind of have to start him. And if, I mean, Neighbors is in the concussion protocol, so if he doesn't go, Wandell could have a huge game here. So I would start Singletary though, just because of the workload. Until, I mean, he had a terrible game last week, but they were really just keying it against the run. So I do think you can start him. If he has another sneaker, you got to bench him. But yeah, for the Seahawks, you're starting every single option for the Seahawks. Don't need to talk about it. Also, the Seahawks defense is playing really good. Mike McDonald's an awesome coach. They obviously didn't play good against the number one offense last week, but every other game at home, especially, they play really solid. So I think the Seahawks win this one handily. And fantasy options, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, 100%. I think you just hit the nail on the head with that one. It should be an interesting game, though. I feel like, Malik Neighbors can make some big explosive plays to keep it somewhat close. But I think when we get into that third and fourth quarter, Seahawks are really going to dominate it.
Yep, Malik Neighbors versus the Seahawks. We got the Seahawks coming out on top. Seekers guarantee. We'll go into the Sunday night football game. The 2-2 Dallas Cowboys are going to go into Pittsburgh and play the 3-1 Steelers, who are 2.5 point favorites at home. And this one, I've been going back and forth all day, kind of like that Dolphins Patriots game. I've switched my pick a few times. Justin Fields is playing really, cerebral football. He's playing a lot better quarterback than we've seen from him. Maybe the best we've ever seen from him. Last week was kind of the old Justin Fields where we saw the running back part of Justin Fields. He was running all over the Colts. So I don't know. This is a really tough one to pick, but I got to go with the Cowboys. They do have a better offense. Their defense is completely beat up. No Micah Parsons. That alone makes me kind of want to pick the Steelers. No Demarcus Lawrence as well. Very scary. A lot of injuries on the Cowboys defense is making me second guess this, but I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. I just think CD Dak will get it done in the very end. I think it's gonna be a very close game, low scoring game. Hopefully TJ Watt doesn't completely ruin Tyler Guy. And everything I'm saying makes me want to pick the Steelers, honestly. But I just can't pick the Steelers for some reason. So give me the Cowboys on the road. I don't know why, but I just think Dak and CD will prevail. It's not a great matchup though.
Oh, this is like battle of the freaking kickers, in my opinion. Because
Two
I think,
best kickers, really.
yeah. I mean, this is from a fantasy aspect of everything. It's like, dude, you spam start freaking Chris Boswell and Brandon Aubrey, because it's gonna be. I think it's gonna just come down to a lot of field goals in this one. The ultimate deciding factor why I'm kind of laughing right now is because when you said Mike Parsons, you're like that alone might have that was ultimately my deciding factor, and DeMarcus Lawrence, obviously, of course. I feel like, without those two, I feel like Justin Fields is going to be able to actually have a decent game. I mean, with those two in there, I feel like they might harass Justin Fields just enough to make him uncomfortable, to make him fumble, to just to be sacking him enough. But, TJ Watt on the other side, I think he's going to harass Dak enough to where it's just going to be a field goal type of game. And, I trust this Steelers team. I feel like they're coached up well. I feel like they're built for a game like this. And so I'm going to pick the Steelers in this one. Not super confidently, but I am leaning that side.
Yeah, it's a complete coin flip. Like if I'm being honest, I just picked the Cowboys and I can't even picture them winning this game. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm picking the Cowboys for
Not too
no.
late to switch, Dan. It's not too late.
It isn't, but I'm just sticking with it for some reason. I don't even know why. Like I can already see TJ Watt winning this game at home. These fans go crazy in prime time. Tyler Guyton's terrible. I don't know. Najee Harris is terrible though, and this Cowboys run defense is terrible. So I think it'll be Fields kind of running all over. But I don't know, man. This is a weird matchup. So many injuries on the Cowboys, but I'm still gonna go with the Cowboys. Just for some reason, I have a feeling they come away with a squeaker. Brandon Aubrey 63-yard field goal or something crazy. But give me the Cowboys for fantasy. You know who you're starting. No Brandon Cooks in this one. Go pick up Jalen Tolbert. I think Jalen Tolbert's a good start for the next few weeks while Brandon Cooks is out. I think Jalen Tolbert could actually have some upside. So look out for a nice Jalen Tolbert game on prime time. Pick him up before he goes off on prime time, and you have to pay up for him on the waivers. So I think, Jalen Tolbert, I'm fine starting. Obviously, CD Dak, Dowdle's a dart throw. He's so bad at running back and football. Lepke, Zeke, splitting with him. I don't really want to start Dowdle, but you can. It's a little bit gross. And then for the Steelers, obviously Fields, you kind of have to start right now. He's playing some really good football, running a lot more. Pickens, you got to start coming off a great game. Najee, I don't want to start Najee. I don't want to start any of the Steelers running backs. Najee is just not good, man. He's disappointing. The Cowboys have a bad run defense. It's a good matchup, but I'd kind of go away from him if I could. And Pat Freiermuth is a deep dart throw.
Start the kickers. That's my advice for this game. You start the kickers. You have one of these kickers, you might just win your league because of it.
Start the kickers. Boswell versus Aubrey on Sunday Night Football. Let's go on to Monday Night Football, the last game of the week. The 2-2 New Orleans Saints are going to go into Kansas City. Of course, they have so many primetime games at home. The 4-0 Chiefs are 5.5-point home favorites in this Monday Night Football game. Going to be a good one. Obviously, you lose Rashee Rice, no Pacheco. Very disappointing. Obviously, it's setting up for Travis Kelce to be a lot more involved. Maybe we'll get, 2021 Travis Kelce in this one, and he can be more involved, but he's just not very athletic, not very explosive. He's not really just a great athlete. So he'll probably go like 5 for 50, 6 for 60, something like that. Nothing special. Kareem Hunt should be the bell cow in this one. Could totally see a world where Carson still gets carries though, and then it just muddies everything. The Chiefs are so weird with running backs. It's hard to predict. Could see a long Xavier Worthy touchdown. Could see a long Rashid Shaheed touchdown. Give me the New Orleans Saints in this one. No Rashee Rice. How are you going to do anything without your two most explosive players? You run your offense through Pacheco and Rashee Rice. They got to have at least one game or they can't figure it out without their two best players, really. Their offense literally runs through those guys. The Rashee Rice is their most dynamic, explosive player. They'd have no explosiveness outside of a one play from Xavier Worthy. He's not a wide receiver one. So give me the Saints in this one, man. Coming off a loss, I think they bounced back. They honestly shouldn't have lost that game to the Falcons. Some weird special teams plays. Troy Anderson went off. Give me the Saints, man. They definitely. It's kind of bold, but I can just see a world where they come into Kansas City and give the Chiefs their first loss. Derek Carr is playing solid football. I think Alvin Kamara has himself a game. I think Olave, Shaheed, Taysom Hill maybe show out, and the Saints defense just really suffocates Patrick Mahomes, who's had the worst stretch of his career really right now.
Give me the dogs, man. I love it, Dan. I love it. I needed the confidence for you because I was literally on our pick'ems going back and forth, picking. I don't know, but I needed the confidence from Dan to give me the dogs in this one. I'm gonna roll with Dan and the dogs in this one. Give me the Saints. I want it. I need it. We need the Chiefs to lose, and this is their opportunity for them to lose. As we said, Rashee Rice already out for this game. Pacheco's out. Your two best players are out. I just feel like the Saints are, they're just the better team in general right now. I feel like that offense is a little bit more electric. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs find a way to win almost every single game. It doesn't even matter the circumstances. They will find a way to come out on top. But I do like this Saints team. I feel like the matchup is very good for the Saints. I feel like it favors the Saints. And I don't know. I have a feeling. I have that. Yeah, I'm trusting my gut on this one. I feel like you said, Kamara, Chris Olave, Taysom Hill, Shaheed. I feel like it should just be a good game. And obviously you saw Rasheed Rice go out, and the Chiefs offense was pretty stagnant against the Chargers last week. I mean, it was pretty stagnant. They only put up 17 points. That's the Chargers defense without Joey Bosa, with Derwin James getting suspended in this one. I mean, it was not a pretty game from the Chiefs offense in general. And like you said, Mahomes is playing his worst stretch of football here. I think it's a good opportunity for the Saints to take advantage of a depleted Saints team without Rice, and to come out with a win.
Yep, totally agreed. I was kind of expecting you to go with the Chiefs in that one, not gonna lie. You threw me off a little bit there, but totally agreed. Going into fantasy, don't start any of the Chiefs receivers outside of Xavier Worthy. And I don't think anything changes for Xavier Worthy. I think he's still the same player. I think he's still a dart throw for a long touchdown, same as Rashid Shaheed. I think they're the same exact player. I think I'd actually rather have Shaheed, but the thing that it does that the Rashee Rice injury does change things for is Travis Kelce. He definitely has a lot higher floor now. He doesn't have those 2 point stinkers in play. He's gonna get at least 10 points for you. So maybe go trade for Travis Kelce if you can. His floor is completely helps. That like that Rashee Rice injury just made him a damn near league winning tight end in this economy of tight ends. Patrick Mahomes, not a fun start. I went through it last year. He's not good in fantasy. You feel like you have to start him because of his name. If you can start a Sam Darnold or someone, I totally would be fine with that. The Saints defense is tough. Kareem Hunt, I think, is a good start, but it is a little bit scary. I could see P. Ryan and Steele still getting involved, but I would start Kareem Hunt of any of them. I will be starting him in our league. And then for the Saints, you're starting Shaheed. I think you're starting Olave. You're starting Kamara, obviously, the number one player in all of fantasy, obviously. And I think that is about it. No fringe options because you're not starting Juju or Justin Watson unless you're just a psycho sicko.
What's funny is like you just said with Mahomes, he's not been a great fantasy football player. And I just found out in another podcast that I was watching earlier today that Xavier Worthy touchdown that was 52 yards or 54 yards, can't remember, was Patrick Mahomes' first 50-plus yard touchdown since 2022. So, you know, the team is different without Tyreek Hill. I think people kind of overestimate how the Chiefs are playing football and kind of just picture them to be this big, giant downhill, threat. But the Chiefs have just not played that brand of football since Tyreek Hill has left. They are a different breed of football, and props to them for getting it done, in a different way because they'll always find a way to win. But yeah, they're just not this downhill, exciting fantasy offense since Tyreek Hill, excuse me, has left the team.
Yeah, they're the run first Chiefs, and they're going to be running through Kareem Hunt, and they're going to be running their passing game through a 49-year-old tight end. So just no dynamism for this Chiefs team. They're going to keep all games low scoring because they've got a good defense, but their offense is just not good enough. I mean, you saw it in LA last week. It's just going to be like that for all of their games, really, moving forward. So I do think the Saints come away with the steal here. They have more explosiveness. I think the Saints have a fun little bit of a steal of a game in Kansas City in prime time, but really fun going over all the week 5 games. A lot of fun matchups we had to go into, a lot of fantasy start sits we went over. Definitely comment any fantasy start sits or any predictions. Anything else you want to say?
I'll do a little bit of a bold take for my personal agenda just to send some good juju out in the air. Rasheed Rice does not have a torn ACL. It's some kind of knee sprain, and he will be back week 10 to save Stores' fantasy season.
Stores is out here doing prayer circles at the end of the pods and some witch juju at the end of the pod, fitting for October. But thank you guys for tuning in to another NFL Seekers podcast. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out. Mock draft coming soon.
Yes, sir.